And welcome to another edition of the Tom Green Podcast. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the Major League Baseball postseason and everything that would happen there with the wild cards that all advanced, and we were hoping for a World Series of something amongst the one seeds. I know that our guest wanted Baltimore, I believe, to be in the World Series. That didn't happen, but we made sure the guest returned because when I did the show a couple weeks ago, my grandma had passed away and it was just a rough time, but I wanted to get the show done anyway. This time I'm in better spirits. We're in better spirits. And Erica Jones from BLEZ Sports Cards is back with us. Erica, great to be in better spirits and great to have you back on the show for a little World Series preview.
Definitely. I'm glad you're in better spirits. Glad to be back. And I'm actually at BLEZ Sports Cards, if you can't tell. So little podcasting from the studio today. Excited about that.
Hey, there we go. A little promotion on the BLEZ Sports Cards as well. I mean, you did talk about it a little bit, but I mean, you're there. Not a lot of people listen to the first show. Go ahead and tell whoever does not know about BLEZ Sports Cards about your product there. I know we talked about it.
So we do live sports card box breaks. It's it's basically you collectively buy into a box of sports cards. So rather than one person buying a box of sports cards, 30 or 32 people, depending on the league, each person can buy a team in a box of sports cards. And then we live stream and open the boxes. So let's say you buy the Tigers, all the Tigers cards in that box would be yours. I buy the Red Sox, all the Red Sox cards would be mine. So it's like that. It's a more affordable way of opening up sports cards because they can get really expensive. And it's a way to just be chasing the teams and players you want, as opposed to buying a whole box and getting guys you probably don't really care about.
Yes, and I remember I used to collect baseball cards when I was growing up through middle and high school. And in fact, I still have a huge box of baseball cards from the 1990 season, which was 5 years before I was even in existence. But I believe my half brother had a whole box of 1990 baseball cards from Donruss that I have sitting in my basement. So so there's that. And from around 2006 to 2010, I collected a lot of baseball cards, and I still have a lot of the 2006 and 2007 Tigers.
I hear a lot of that. People are like, well, I used to collect. I have a giant box in the basement. You never know if that box is worth $10 or $1 million. So it's crazy.
Exactly. Which, speaking of Tigers and Red Sox, can you believe that it has been 10 years since Bullpen Cop and the Red Sox winning the World Series and Boston Strong and all that?
Yeah, that's crazy. I cannot believe it's been 10 years since then. There was something else that I was going to say. I can't believe it's been 10 years since when you said that, but now I don't remember.
It happens. And of course, those that remember watching that series, of course, I watched it in a lot of pain as a Tigers fan. It wasn't necessarily Benoit and Bullpen Cop that ruined that series for Detroit. It was Game 3, in my opinion, that ruined it for Detroit, as Justin Verlander was on the mound. Mike Napoli hit a solo shot in, I believe, the third inning, and that was the only scoring in that game. The Red Sox won 1-0. That put the Red Sox ahead 2-1 and virtually kept the momentum on Boston's side until the end of the World Series when they won it for Boston.
Yeah. I'm not going to pretend that I was totally invested in that series. That was definitely a little before I was a massive, massive baseball fan. But yeah, I can do a better job of talking about what's going on today. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Just one of those things where with you being a Boston fan, me being a Detroit fan, you got
to touch on it for sure.
Of course. Something else we'll touch on before our World Series pick is Bob Melvin was just hired as the manager of the San Francisco Giants. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of thoughts on it. I definitely think it's good for the Giants to have some new direction. I mean, it's a team that definitely has some talent, but they haven't really been able to get to where they want to go. I'm more invested in this new Red Sox GM, but there's a lot of, I think, changes that are going on in baseball administration right now across a lot of teams. That'll happen every offseason. But I definitely am trying to get through this postseason, and then I'll I think, be a
Sure.
little more invested in the stuff that like affects the upcoming seasons.
Sure, absolutely. And at least my thoughts on it is that I'm sure we know that San Diego and Bob Melvin it was basically a dead relationship walking. I'm sure we've had those, whether it's in the workforce or whether it's in personal life or something like that. It was sort of a dead relationship walking because I remember reading some stories from The Athletic. So this is good for both sides, I think, for Bob Melvin to move on from San Diego and on to San Francisco, that stunningly fired Gabe Kapler. I still am a little bit mystified as to why they got rid of Gabe Kapler, but Bob Melvin is an upgrade, I think, as manager. I don't think badly of Kapler, but I think that Melvin will give them that experience. I think because Kapler was a first time, or was he a second time manager? I forget, but nonetheless, Kapler was a very young manager. They needed a little bit older face in the clubhouse. Bob Melvin gives them that. It'll be interesting to see where San Diego goes from this point. We won't talk about that now because we have a World Series prediction to hammer out, and that, as we were talking off air, and you were talking about it on IG last night, the Texas Rangers and Arizona Diamondbacks, the exact two World Series teams that we thought were going to be in there at the beginning of the season. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, didn't we all think this would be the World Series matchup? It was obvious. Texas and Arizona. I mean, you could have bet on that easily.
If you had extra money to throw away and didn't expect anything out of it, absolutely. So, I mean, these two teams are, well, Texas is led by a manager that has come out of retirement, Bruce Bochy, and I talked with, of course, Abby Jones in August that she had said that Bruce Bochy is a very good face and a very good humble face, humble person to have in the clubhouse, and it has really made a difference for this Rangers team. I mean, I talked about it a couple weeks ago that I didn't necessarily think that they would make it this far, but I mean, here they are. Once we got to Game 7, Dusty Baker had never won a Game 7, and Bruce Bochy had never lost a Game 7. So that kind of told you where this series was going to go. And lo and behold, here the Rangers are in the World Series.
Exactly. But there's a first time for everything. So I still had no idea what was going to happen. I'm sad though that Dusty Baker's retiring. I almost feel like he would have been better off just retiring last year, going on a high note, right?
Yes, it would have been nice for Dusty. He wanted another World Series, I would imagine, but it just proves that when the time comes, the time comes, and Dusty Baker is now no longer employed by Major League Baseball by choice. He is now retired, and he's going to enjoy his retirement with 2 rings and whatnot. But indeed, great managing career for Dusty Baker. So
absolutely, Hall of Fame career for sure. He's done it all.
indeed. So talking about the National League side, the Arizona Diamondbacks, a young team that was led by a manager that I felt was going to be fired at the end of last year, but they believed in him. The young core has really developed well and brought them to this point. Tell me about what you've seen from the Diamondbacks this year.
I mean, yeah, it's really just been an incredible story, the turnaround. I know we're talking about the Diamondbacks right now, but both teams 2 years ago lost over 100 games. And now these are the two teams, both wildcard teams, going to the World Series. It's so incredible to see, especially these two teams were in divisions with the Astros and the Dodgers. And, those are the teams that every year we see one of those two teams, right? This is the first World Series in 6 years where one of those two teams hasn't been in the World Series. The year of the underdog, as I was calling it on my TikTok. Yep. I think it's exciting. I think that it changes the narrative a little bit for Major League Baseball. I'm losing my train of thought. We were talking about, the Diamondbacks specifically. We've been hearing all season long about Corbin Carroll and this historic, incredible rookie season that he's having. And just seeing him and his team get to this point, I mean, it takes it to the next level, whether they win or not. The fact that that team has been able to get to this point is really just such an incredible success story that will top off probably one of the greatest rookie seasons in history. And other young guys, Ketel Marte, the National League Championship Series MVP, he was incredible. I mean, this is just such a young core. fought the starting pitcher yesterday. He's 25 years old, I believe. I mean, he had an incredible outing. This was really such a team effort, and baseball really is a team sport more than any other sport. You can't have one player that leads your team to a championship. You can't have two players either, as we've seen with the Angels. You can have the two best players in the entire world, and you still can't even make the playoffs. It's really a team sport, and this young core has worked together so hard and really has done something incredible, and that's why they are where they are. So well deserved.
So what do you think about Mad Dog Russo saying that he was going to retire if the Diamondbacks won Game 7 of the National League Championship Series?
People always want to make jokes like that. I mean, we'll see.
I thought it was so hilarious because even Tori Lavuo was like, well, we'd like to see it happen. I mean, we won Game 7, so. Yeah. But I also want to get your thoughts on Merrill Kelly. I tell you, I had zero belief that the Diamondbacks were going to win Game 6 once Lavuo pulled Merrill Kelly because we saw him storming out, and honestly, I would probably do that as well, and going 90 pitches, 5 innings, and shutout baseball. And I would almost think that Merrill Kelly would probably never pitch again for the Diamondbacks had they lost Game 6. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's one of those things you always need to trust your manager, right? When the manager, it's time to pull you, it's time to pull you. And yeah, I mean, they were able to win that game. You say you didn't think they were going to win Game 6 because of that. I didn't think they were going to win Game 6 just going back to Philly in that environment. I thought that once they went back home, or not home, I thought that once Arizona went back to Philly, I thought they were screwed. Honestly, I didn't even think it was going to go to a Game 7. I thought that just that environment, Red October, it's so insane. It's probably the most crazy playoff baseball environments I've ever seen. Those fans show up like unparalleled, like nothing else. I mean, yeah, I thought, whatever, Philly's back home, they're going to win this. And then once we did get to Game 7, it's like, okay, it's anyone's game. But yeah, I mean, all around, I just think that I'm not fazed by anything that team does anymore, if I'm being completely honest. They've just proven themselves so much. I think I'm past the point of being surprised that they're here, like, completely.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I'm always a skeptic on over management, and I still think that that's what Tori Lavuo did in Game 6. It worked. To his credit, it worked. But usually I'm one that, sort of like John Tortorella in the National Hockey League, play the hot hand. I'm one that likes to play the hot hand, and I still stick to what I say, that had the Diamondbacks lost Game 6, Merrill Kelly would no longer be a Diamondback because I think that really affected him. But because they won, Kelly is he's a team player, and he's going to be fine for this World Series. But it was just one of those things. In the moment, I thought to myself, geez, if I were Merrill Kelly, I'd never pitch again if we lost for the Diamondbacks, if we lost this game.
Yeah. I totally understand what you're saying, being Merrill Kelly, not wanting to be pulled in that moment. He's having a great outing, and if they were to have lost, never pitch again. But you can't be results oriented, right? Because you don't know what the result's going to be. Luckily for him, that wasn't the result. They did win that game. But, play the hot hand. I might disagree a little bit on that, because you never know when that hand is going to cool off. You still have a 35-year-old. You're hoping to have a lot more postseason ahead of you. I don't know. I think there's definitely a fine line between over managing and knowing what's best, because the player's never going to want to come out of the game. He would probably throw 200 pitches if he let him, but in this situation, it definitely worked out.
Yeah, for this situation, it definitely worked out. And there's two different perspectives on today's game. I'm a little bit more old school, while Erica is a little bit more new school. So hey, it works either way. So moving on to the Rangers before we make our predictions here. The second series ever to have had all 7 games won by the road team, and both those series involved the Houston Astros. So I know a lot of people do not have any sympathy at all for the Astros because of what happened 5 years ago, despite 90% of that team being gone and the 2 players that remain on that team not having condoned what happened in 2017. But that's another story.
You're speaking my language there.
Exactly. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do the Rangers even really have much of home field advantage despite them having a home field advantage with and not having won a home game in that series?
It's so funny. I was saying this the other day after they won the game. I don't remember who it was on the broadcast was talking to them about having home field advantage and how exciting that was. Oh, the World Series is going to Arlington. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm on the Rangers, I am not excited about having home field advantage, because if you think about it, if they repeat what they did in the ALCS and what they've been doing this entire postseason, then they're not going to win the World Series, right? I know it sounds silly, but they have home field advantage now. If they win every single road game, that's not going to work because there's only 3 road games and you need 4 wins to win a 7-game series. So they're going to have to figure something out. Do I think it's a coincidence that they happen to be winning every single road game? Yes, but it's also at the point where it's kind of crazy. Like every road game. I mean, they are undefeated on the road this postseason. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they are. It wasn't just this last series. They are undefeated on the road. They might have to lose a road game in this series. They might have to.
Yeah, and another thing I'm really interested in seeing is ticket prices in Arizona, because I'm sure we saw the game 3 ticket prices for the NLCS. They were selling tickets for under $10, where I'm thinking, good God, it would probably be cheaper for me to fly out to Arizona and attend that game than it would be to attend a potential Detroit World Series game whenever it happens.
Yeah. It's funny. In Vegas, I'm like a 4-hour drive from Chase Field. So I can tell you that if tickets were $10, I would be going to every single game, but hopefully I'm still going to get out to at least one game. My coworkers and I were looking at tickets yesterday. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, hoping to do that.
There we go. If it happens, you heard it here first. So, definitely something to record for the IG and TikToks for
Oh yeah.
the Jones. There we go. Get a little spicy content there. So, moving to the World Series now, we kind of gave some of the talking points and whatnot. How do you think this series will go?
How do I think this series will go? I quite literally think it's a coin flip. That's how I've felt for the past couple series, honestly. Probably the number one thing, I know we were just talking about it, it's kind of funny, but Texas needs to figure out how to win home games, right? Because if they can't win, he's flipping his coin.
For those that are, I believe this is a voice-oriented clip, but here's a coin in there. I'm flipping it, and there you go. It's landed on tails. So go ahead.
Well, we didn't decide who was heads and who was tails, but
but
it's okay.
Just
okay.
doing it for dramatic.
I appreciate the dramatic effect. I mean, yeah, for Texas, the key to this is figuring out how to win home games. That's for certain. Arizona, on the other hand, we've seen can do both. Both teams have the talent. We've seen that now. You don't make it to the World Series without having the pitching, the offense, the defense. You need all of those skills, base running, whatever it may be. Both teams have all the tools. And if they didn't, they wouldn't be in that point. They've proven themselves. And because both teams are such big underdogs to even be in this position, I don't really think we have a heavy favorite. I'll be honest, I haven't looked. Have pitching matchups been announced yet for game 1?
Not that I completely know, but looking at my my brand new iPhone 15 Pro, by the way.
Yes, I got the same one.
I've needed to get one of these for a couple of months now because my phone battery was just completely awful in the past month of my iPhone 12. Game 1, Zach Gallen against Undecided. Game 2, if this thing will load, we'll have has not been decided. So Arizona has decided their game 1 starter, but that is it as of the time of this recording.
Okay, give me 1 second because my memory card decided it wanted to fill up and
Well, they're a little snafu here on the show.
right.
These things happen, but thankfully this 30 to 40 seconds of time that I'll fill isn't quite memory card worthy either. So, but nonetheless, Arizona's decided their game 1 starter in Zach Gallen, and while Erica gets her memory card, I guess I'll kind of give a little bit of my take. I'll fill Erica in on my take after she gets the memory card in. But something I'm going to say is that I think managing will play a factor, and I think it will play a bigger factor than people think in this World Series, because let's face it, Bruce Bochy has been to 3 World Series now, 2 with the Giants and now 1 with the Rangers. Torey Lovullo is not, and I honestly felt that Torey Lovullo was going to be fired after the 2021 season. Remember when Arizona lost 11 games in a row, or more than that? I think it was like 15 to 18 games in a row. I don't have the stats on me, but I was honestly thinking that they were going to be close to losing 120 games in 2021. And they really should have fired Torey Lovullo for it.
I am so sorry about that. I'm back. But yes, so I heard everything you were saying, and I agree. I think managing is going to play a very, very big factor in this. And honestly, I think managing played a huge factor in the ALCS. I am a huge fan of Dusty Baker, but I think it's pretty widely agreed upon that he did not do a great job of managing that game 7. He let Maldonado have way too many at-bats. I think a lot of things were very weird in that. But yes, managing is going to play a big, big role in this. And it's another one of those, it's a common storyline we see, can wisdom and experience outplay the new, fresh, young? Managing, usually not. We'll see.
Yeah, and something I'll give credit to the Diamondbacks is believing in their guy. I know it was just ranting about how Torey Lovullo should have been fired, but the thing is, they believed in their guy and they let him do his job, and it has paid off in a World Series appearance. Even though usually when first-time managers are in their first spot, they don't do very well. For example, Terry Francona in Philly. Do we remember Terry Francona in Philly? No, God, no, not really. AJ Hinch in Arizona. Do we remember him? I do a little bit because I'm a baseball junkie. But case in point, look at their second stops. Terry Francona went to your team, the Boston Red Sox, won 2 World Series, or won 1 World Series. No, 2 World Series there. 2 World Series there. AJ Hinch went to Houston, won in 2017. Whether or not you're a fan of what happened in 2017, they still won in 2017. Case in point,
can AJ Hinch do it in Detroit?
We shall see, and I like the direction the team is going. I think they'll finish over 500. I don't necessarily think playoffs or World Series aspirations yet, but I do anticipate an over 500 season next year. So, case in point is that usually the first stop for a manager is not the best stop for the manager. But in this case, for Torey Lovullo, it has worked, and the Diamondbacks are in the World Series. But like I was saying, and I'll say it again for Erica's memory card's sake, Bruce Bochy has been in 3 World Series, 2 with the Giants, 1 with the Rangers, of course, and of course I've just talked about Torey Lovullo. But nonetheless, that's sort of where I was going to start, and where I'm going to go with this is that if Texas wins a home game, they will win the World Series. Is kind of my prediction. But with that said, I think the Diamondbacks win a home game as well. Texas will likely have to win 2 home games to win this World Series. To give an official prediction, I'm going to say Rangers in 6. Scherzer's health is still but when it comes to the World Series, I tend to value experience over youth. However, when youth wins, youth wins. So Rangers in 6.
Oh, Rangers in 6. Okay. I'm scared to give predictions after my initial postseason predictions. I don't think, I mean, my bracket was the scariest, most embarrassing, inaccurate thing. You'd think I was just some random girl on the street that had never even heard about baseball before. That's how
I got right, though. The one thing I got right was Baltimore. Besides that, I was wrong. I was wrong on most of it too.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit scared to give a prediction. You know, it's so hard, right? I feel like you've convinced me just from talking that Texas is the right choice. They got the wisdom, the experience, the managing, all the things. Okay.
Mhm. Plus the bullpen. The bullpen has done a lot better since the postseason than it was going in.
Plus the bullpen. And just that alone
Spores has been lights out.
Makes me want to take Arizona, right? Here's the thing. I think Arizona can easily, and I don't throw around the word easily in the postseason, but I think Arizona can easily win game 1 in Texas. As we know, Texas has not played well at home this postseason. We've been talking about that. And also, they have Zach Gallen on the mound. He's going to be up top 5 in Cy Young finishing, maybe top 2. Who knows? Blake Snell's going to win it. But we'll probably have Eovaldi for the Rangers, even though it hasn't been announced yet. I 100% think that's anyone's game. And like I said, I think the Diamondbacks can for sure win. And I don't know what the percentage is of time, but more often than not, the team that wins game 1 will win the whole thing.
Most typically.
I want to say it's close to 70%. I might be making that up. But if I remember last time I looked it up, yeah, we can take a little break to research that.
Right. But let's see. Winner of game 1. World Series.
Maybe I'm making stuff up. Maybe I'm so far off. I do not know. But I think it's something like that.
I can't find it right. I can't find it right away, but I would assume somewhere around 65 to 70. I would assume 2/3 of the time. That sounds right.
It's a pretty high percentage. That's for sure. It's not going to be a sweep. Definitely not, and I can say that very confidently.
But would you retire from BLEZ Sports Cards if it was a sweep like Mad Dog is?
No. No. We're dealing with 2 teams that are so hungry and excited, young, hungry, humble. 2 likable teams too, right? When you have the Astros, Dodgers, Yankees, it's like people have a lot of opinions on those teams, those big market teams. A lot of people have their claws out. They don't like them. But these are 2 teams that not a lot of people have bad things to say about. There's nothing bad to say. They haven't really pissed people off in history. I'm getting sidetracked a little bit now, but you know what I'm saying. And as a baseball junkie yourself, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. There's no bad blood.
Exactly. Yeah, and I guess my team that I kind of my big market team that I don't really like is the Dodgers, and it's because everybody expects the world of them when they can just pay for anything, and they can just pay for anything and still not get results. So one World Series since 1985, and that World Series you can put an asterisk on because it was 2020. So.
You sure can. Yeah. But my very, very long-winded answer that I probably should have given 5 minutes ago, I don't know. I'm going to go with Arizona.
Sure.
Do I think this is going to age like fine wine? I don't know. It may not. Am I confident in that pick? Absolutely not. But we'll see. Like I said, I did not think Arizona was going to be able to win a single game on the last stretch of this championship series in Philly. And guess what? They won both of them. So I'm not going to put anything past this team. Let's take them to win the World Series.
There we go. Huh? And would you take them in 7?
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if this series went 7. I think it'll be long, 6 or 7. I think not 4 or 5. I I don't think there's one team that's dominant enough for it to be 4 or 5. Now, of course, there's always exceptions. It's baseball, weird things happen, but I don't think there's a team that's dominant enough to win in 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, going into this show, I was thinking Rangers in 6, and that's the prediction I gave. I pretty much had zero thought of this going 4 or 5. So we're definitely in agreement there. She's got Arizona in 7. I've got Texas in 6. And so, well, there we go. With that all said, is there anything else that you would have to add to this wonderful Tom Green World Series podcast prediction show for this time around?
If I added any other takes, I'd probably regret it. So no.
There you go. Good to have Erica Jones on the show once again, and this time we were both in better spirits after, of course, what family things happening a couple of weeks ago with Grandma passing away. But she would want me to move forward, and that's what I have done, and that's what most people would want me to do anyway. So there you have it. This has been another great edition of the Tom Green Podcast. Happy World Series time, everybody.
Happy World Series.